Hi everyone, this is Lisa McLean from Lisa McLean Publications, and this is our Chasing Dreams Thursdays live. Welcome. This is the first time that we're actually going to be running Chasing the Dreams lives through YouTube. So we're doing a shift, a transition from Instagram. So I am actually going to sign into Instagram quickly just to be able to direct everyone across to where we are before we actually get started. But if you are new to Chasing Dreams Lives Thursdays, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite spaces to be, our writing community. We meet every Thursday and we talk about anything that has to do with publications and writing and books. So let's do a quick sign in. Hi everyone. So I'm bouncing between YouTube and Instagram Live tonight, and it's a transition. As you know, our theme for tonight is being open to change, and this is one of the reasons why I chose that as our topic, because we're actually going to be transitioning from Instagram Live to YouTube on a Thursday evening. So it's if we can pull it off to have both spaces running, great. If not, then it will be a switch straight over to YouTube. I'm so excited to see you guys tonight. Hi Stephen, how are you? Good to see you. No, it's okay, Stephen. It was, as usual, my tech issues. So I was trying to set up my eCam because, as I mentioned, we're actually going to be running through YouTube tonight. And they have a different platform. So this is different from what I normally use. It's their eCam Live, and I'm used to a browser-based program that allows me to go in and set everything up, and I didn't see everything that I was familiar with. So feel no way, I will be picking your brain again, Stephen, don't worry. But good to see you. It's been a long time. I hope you're good. I know you were celebrating a lot of family time this week, so hope you're well rested and good to go. Yes, YouTube and Instagram, can you imagine? Oh, my bad. So I'm actually using the wrong program. Good to know. Wow, I'm doing very well tonight. So clearly, this is a wonderful lesson for anyone who does not know Lisa and her technology challenges. T solves everything. So let's see how this works. If I can pull off eCam and keep it going, then that's what we will stick to. And if not, I go back to StreamYard. I don't know, I totally forgot about it. I actually had an account with eCam, so I must have tried it at some point. Yeah, I'm thinking this might be the program that Robert Kennedy Jr. recommended. And I think it has like a lot of little effects. I hope it's the right thing. I'll now find out, right? Okay, I'll work on it. So, our topic tonight, before we actually even get started, so just some little tidbits, some little in the news, housekeeping business before we get started. Our writers community, or subscription community that should have been launched about a month ago, did not get launched, unfortunately. Again, there were some hiccups with the platform that I was using for everyone to subscribe to. So that didn't happen, and so I will be shifting that launch date down and going to be using a different platform to host. So for anyone who is still interested in joining our Chasing the Dreams writers community, feel excited because there is still time to join. We're actually going to have to reschedule, rejig, and get that sorted because of tech issues, which is not a bad thing because there are a lot of people who are interested and didn't get a chance to catch the deadline that we were running at the time. So once that's sorted and a new date is set and I can get my technology stuff in gear, we are good to go. I'll let you know the launch date. Hi Craig, good to see you. So excited. Glad you could be here. I was mentioning to Stephen that this is my YouTube/Instagram streaming experiment for this evening. And if you notice that we went back to our 8:30 time. The 9 o'clock time was a little late for many people, so I've gone back to the original time, and we will stick to this, but play with different platforms for a bit. All right, nice, good to see you both. So we're talking about change tonight. We're talking about change and being open to change and embracing change. And as usual, we start with what is your small step that you took this week to chase your dreams, to chase those wonderful dreams and goals that you've set. And my small step for this week was actually a reconceptualization of goal setting and what it meant to have something that you were working towards. And like most of you, I set very specific goals, because that's what they tell us. They say set SMART goals, very specific, measurable, time-oriented. And I found often I was a little disappointed if I didn't make the specifics of those goals. And I was actually listening to two different speakers recently, Melanie Leo and Emmanuel Acho. Is that how you pronounce his name, Stephen? I think I found him on your Twitter feed. And both of them made a really interesting point, and I decided to make that kind of switch in how I set my goals this week. Instead of setting SMART goals, you set larger life goals, is what Emmanuel calls it, but Melanie calls it these larger contexts. And it's having an idea of what you want your life to be like. This broader idea of you don't need to accomplish something in a year, but you want to be the best version of yourself in whatever specific fields that you're talking about. So instead of saying I want to earn $5 per month, where you cap what you think you can spend, then you want to set yourself a limitless goal. I want to be able to have a wealthy life, which can encompass finances and embrace wealthy relationships and a rich purpose and rich experiences. And that was my little shift towards my goal setting this week, was instead of capping what I think I can achieve, it was setting myself these larger contexts of what I want, of having wealthy experiences, a wealthy life, rich relationships, a magnanimous purpose that I'm pursuing, which leaves everything open to the sky's the limit, right? It's still pushing me to be my best self. I still want to be a best-selling author. But instead of saying I want to be on the New York Times bestseller list, which is just one list, by saying I want to be a best-selling author, it leaves me open to amazing feats and accomplishments that I may not even be aware of or not be invented yet. So that's my little step. The sky's the limit, and reframing my goals as these larger contexts, not very specific, measurable goals that can be capped and limit your potential. So if you guys want to share what your little step was that you took towards achieving your goals, go right ahead. Let me know in the chat. If you're on YouTube, please share it in the chat below. If you're on Instagram, please share in the chat. I see Stephen referring Emmanuel Acho. It was actually a podcast that Stephen had shared about his book Illogical, Limitless Living, and I love it. I'm actually going to pick up a copy of that. But I just love that philosophy, the sky is the limit. And yes, audiobooks are great. I'm learning to appreciate podcasts and audiobooks because I can listen while I do the dishes or listen while I cook, and use that time to cover a little bit more ground, even though I like to be a physical reader. I like a physical book. But yes, and to all the authors out there, and this comes up in what we're talking about with embracing change, be open to all kinds of formats. Hopefully Annette will join us soon. I know her hands have been a little full. So Stephen and Craig, if you share in the chat what were your little steps towards achieving your goals this week, that would be great. And while you're doing that, I'm going to jump into tonight's topic. And you know I like this idea of threes. And so I want to propose, there are three particular areas that I think authors need to consider when it comes to embracing change. Because as with everything, with any particular career or goal that we may have, any path that we're following, you have to be open to change. You have to be open to being flexible, being open to altering that plan a bit if it is that there is a path that will better suit the path that what your overarching goals are, or if there's a path that's a little bit more efficient, or just something new that you wouldn't have considered, and a great opportunity that you probably need to consider. So we're embracing change tonight. Hi Nikki, hi Michael, so good to see you, glad you could join us. We're embracing change tonight, so we're running on YouTube and Instagram. And share in the chat below what small step you took towards chasing your goals this week. I shared mine already, so when you get a chance, when you're finished, just go back to the beginning of the video and listen in, because it's a philosophy I'm borrowing from some very wise people that I listened to this week. So my 3 takeaways on embracing change for authors. Number 1, be open to changing your manuscript and tweaking it. And I would have mentioned this last week and the week before, that there was this competition that I had come across in a newsletter that I subscribed to, one of these organizations I subscribed to, Book for Life, and they had a competition running for fiction and non-fiction manuscripts. And I have a manuscript that I've been working on for a while. Really, it's been somewhat stalled, primarily because of challenges with the early illustrators I had, and I've discovered the most amazing illustrator. And she's working on it, and we've been revising and editing, and I thought, wow, this would be a great manuscript to enter into this competition, and it was too short. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the video where I discussed it, because I needed to move from 3,000 words to 30,000 words, which is quite a jump. It turns out that the deadline is a little longer than I thought, so I actually do have some more time to work on it. But I really had to pause, decide if it was worth the extension, decide if it was worth looking and working on the manuscript and changing it, because now I was moving from something that really fit more of a short story mold that was suitable for younger children than my target age group that I wanted, and expanding it and turning it into a chapter book and developing it further and really bringing the characters to life and bringing the themes to life in a way that I thought might be more engaging and might be more purposeful for anybody who picks up that book. Because the goal is not just to teach kids how to read, but it's also to get them to be in love with books, in love with the art of storytelling, and to learn about relationships and life issues and these bigger themes that they have to face on a daily basis. So I chose to pivot. I chose to make a switch and extend the manuscript, whether I meet the deadline for the competition or not, but just to give myself that challenge of creating a book that would have more of an impact than the original manuscript. The other consideration you may want to have here would be to even just change the format that you're using, because you may have intended it to be a paperback, and you may want to consider turning it into a graphic novel, or you may want to consider turning it into an audiobook, or altering the language and making it accessible to persons from other countries. So don't be open, don't be resistant to looking at your manuscript and tweaking it and modifying the format to suit different audiences, or to even just try something new and stretch yourself a little, which is what I had done with Freedom Field. Freedom Field was originally a short story and would have been part of a text of historical fiction from different time periods. And my intern recommended, he asked if he could turn it into a graphic novel. I said sure, and he did an amazing job. I may still revisit my original idea and tweak it for an older audience, but Freedom Field as a graphic novel was a beautiful and is a beautiful product. So I'm really happy that I was open to having that conversation and that suggestion. So that's my embracing change tip number one. Be open to altering your manuscript and making it look a little different from what you considered originally. Let me take a look at the chat. Yes, I did find a new illustrator. That was great, and I'm excited, Nikki, that I do have more time. I discovered that today, so I'm excited. Let's see how that goes if I make it. Still not very close, but working on it. My tip number two is don't be afraid to change your publishing platform. And I say this because you have many authors who have gone the traditional route and may be afraid to tackle self-publishing because it has its own kind of stigma that it's not considered real publishing. But there's a whole lot of autonomy and there's a whole lot more flexibility and control that you have over your manuscript and marketing it and the various audiences that you can tap into, and even just the whole creative process. You actually have more of a say in what that looks like if you choose to change paths. And I would say in the other way as well, if you have chosen to self-publish and you've done that for your first book or two, there's nothing wrong with trying either going with a traditional publisher, a full traditional publisher, or a publisher that's kind of in between. They have these hybrid versions that are kind of a mix of a little self-publishing with a little traditional. I'm not as familiar with those, but I want to challenge you to consider sometimes, depending on the book, depending on the market, depending on who your target audience is, you may want to consider going a different route from what you're used to. You know, take the chance and self-publish. If you've never tried it, you may enjoy the adventure that that entails. And if you have self-published before and you have a traditional publisher who's interested, you know, there's a lot of clout that they have with regards to getting your books into, you know, some of the bigger marketplaces, into bookstores, into libraries, that kind of thing. So don't rule that out as an option. And my number three, embracing change, is don't be afraid to play with your genre. I mean, yes, you may be a historical fiction writer. Yes, you may be someone who writes memoirs, but don't be afraid to explore children's books, or to explore romance novels, or to explore graphic novels. I mean, don't be afraid to play with a slightly different genre. You may find that it's a genre that you prefer, that you enjoy, or you may find that there are aspects of this other genre that you can pull across into how you tackle the books and the style that you're more familiar with and more comfortable with. So be willing to take a risk and to take a chance and to try something new. Those are my three topics, my three suggestions for embracing change, and why embracing change is a good thing and can actually broaden your market and make you a more confident writer. Play with your manuscript. Don't be afraid to change with your to alter your publishing platform, jumping between self-publishing and traditional publishing, or change your genre. Try a new genre, change it completely, or see how it impacts the one that you prefer. Embrace change. It's a night for change. So good to have you. I don't know if you guys have any questions or anything that you want to share. I see a comment here from Craig. We always think self-publishing is expensive. You know, Craig, it can be. And I think the problem with self-publishing is we jump into self-publishing and think that it's going to cost nothing. And we don't punch the numbers first. So we don't jump in with a budget, or even if we jump in with a budget, we don't jump in with a realistic budget. And some of the items that I think that we frequently forget when we're self-publishing, that we don't take into account, are the costs for that team that you may need. So should you need to pay for an illustrator, which is key when it comes to children's publishing, And illustrators are pricey. Good illustrators are pricey. I mean, worth it, absolutely. If you can find an intern, that's a way to cut those costs. But if you want value for money, you have to be prepared to pay somebody who understands the industry, and is flexible and understands children's books and can give you good advice. The other thing we don't take into account is the cost of an editor if you don't actually have persons that you can refer to help you with revising and editing. And we forget, yes, the beauty with many self-publishing options is that they promote print on demand, so you don't actually have to have stock in hand. However, books, as much as there are many people who will do well online, most books tend to be purchased in person. So most books are going to be bought by your immediate kind of support system, friends, family members, people who know you, people who are referred to you. If you are having a book launch, if you're having book signings, if you're doing book tours with different bookstores, if you're doing a fair at Christmas time, if you're doing school visits. So any kind of appearance that you have on your marketing schedule or part of a marketing tour, you actually need to have books in hand. And we forget that you're going to need to have worked into your budget the cost to have those books on hand, the cost to be able to have easily 100 copies that you can walk with for all of these appearances. So self-publishing is not expensive, but it really depends on the type of book, and you do have to consider there's some of these odd expenses that we don't consider. I mean, if you're not going to do book tours, then you don't have to worry about paying to have books on hand. Printing on demand works, and there are lots of support systems for that. The other thing that you do have to consider is our marketing budget, which we forget. Especially if you're new, you may want to do some paid advertising posts. Or again, for a lot of these tours, launches, school visits, in addition to the books, you want to have your own kind of memorabilia or merchandise, right? So being able to have bookmarks, being able to have maybe bags with stickers on them, with your logo, just little things that go with selling a book, because you're not just going to hand over the book itself. Merchandise can be print on demand as well, if that's a correct term. I use Printify for my Freedom Field merchandise, but again, if I want to have merchandise on hand, if I'm having a special event, then there needs to be room in my budget for that. Let's see. I hope Craig and Nikki and Stephen are working on their novels. This is just my friendly reminder. Hello, It Rains with Amber. Good to see you. I hope I've called your Instagram handle correctly. Welcome to Chasing Dreams Thursdays, where we talk about all kinds of interesting things to do with publishing and writing books and anything to do with literacy and just developing a love of reading. Print on demand, Craig, it depends on the organization. So with Freedom Field, I used both. I published with Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Their turnaround time, depending, if it's peak time, they're about the same. Sometimes I find Barnes & Noble is a little quicker. Then of course, you have to consider if you're in the States and so you're shipping to a local address, that takes less time than if you're outside of the country like I am. So if I have to order through Amazon or Barnes & Noble and then have to engage a shipping company to bring them in as well. So typically print on demand should take maximum about a week. If it's a peak season, if it's a heavy time, Christmas, Thanksgiving, then you may end up with 1 to 2 weeks. So you want to take that into account. And then of course, if you have to ship overseas, that's additional time. That has become a little clunky, and I find that you have to choose your shipping company carefully. I will take that. We can definitely talk about that a little bit more next week. I've been playing with different shipping companies. Again, I've only used Amazon and Barnes & Noble, and so I don't know if you go with Ingram Spark, if it's a little easier. Certainly, I prefer the convenience of print on demand rather than having books printed and having to sit down on stock in my house. So even if the turnaround time is 1 to 2 weeks, it's a little faster. And certainly you want to take into account print on demand is not just for you if you're ordering books. Print on demand is for your customers as well. So it's way more, I mean, companies like Amazon in particular, they have branches in different countries, right? So if someone wants to order from Australia or the UK, there's an Amazon branch that serves that market. And they have persons who will dispatch from those countries. They don't have to worry about shipping from the States. So shipping is only an issue time-wise if I need books on hand. So if I'm ordering books for a bookstore that I'm facilitating here or a book launch. But certainly for customers, printing on demand is a lot more convenient, much shorter turnaround time than if I have a book in my garage and I have to package it and send it. And it certainly is cheaper because if I'm sending it out, any of those overnight courier companies, the cost is prohibitive and it doubles the cost of the book right away. But yes, I can expand on that a little bit more. Hi, Michael. How are you? Good to see you. And Craig and Nikki. So Craig and Nikki, what you really all need to do is join the writing community, because then the writing community has a set weekly writing time, which you just put in your calendar and you say you're going to meet. And then when we meet on the weekend, or if we change that date, where we actually sit and talk and get feedback and ask any questions. I think that's what you all need. You all need accountability partners. Is there a timeline when you need to publish your book? I am not sure. So I will do a little bit of research on the bestseller lists and how that works for sure. Okay. You know, categories are interesting, Craig. So there are two schools of thought. I mean, there's some books that your category is clear, right? Whether you're doing a memoir, a biography, if you're doing a cooking book, if you're doing a children's book, whether that's, and you know, you have early childhood versus middle years versus young adults. There is a school of thought that says that you should tag your book in another category. So a category where that's an underserved category. So for example, if you're doing romance, and romance is actually one of the most popular books on the market, it's hard to hit like the Amazon top 100 books, right? And so I've seen the recommendation where instead of putting that, you would put it under something like a book that's not, maybe like a textbook or something like that. I can't think of an idea off the top of my head. And the idea being, if it's tagged as something that's a less competitive category, then it means that you're going to hit, you know, that top 100 bestseller list faster. I haven't tried it. I don't know if it works. I don't know if it's really the ideal thing to do. I will check on that as well. I remember reading it and feeling a little skeptical about it, because I don't know that I want to play with the numbers like that. I really want to be known for the category that I'm in. But I appreciate that there are categories such as children's books, which are much harder to really make good progress in. You have romance novels, you have horror, you know, some of the more popular categories where you actually have some well-known writers who've been around for a while. Like, you really have to work hard to make your way up on the list and to have the same kind of presence that they do. That's where a traditional publisher comes in. It's much easier to make it to the list. It's much easier to have your book pushed in that way, to be visible to the people who can give you a little bit more mileage if you're going with a traditional publisher than if you self-publish. Certainly if you self-publish, then you want to leverage your own network and start that marketing process early. But I will do some more research on that for you as well. Of course, these things you must have mentors. I mean, there's no way that I would have gotten to this point on my own without asking questions. And mentors don't necessarily have to be people that you actually know and that you sit and you talk to, because you can find mentors online. There can be that author or that book coach that you just subscribe to their newsletter or you attend their webinars, right? But definitely it helps if you're new to self-publishing or if you're new to writing, that you receive some kind of support. Look for some kind of support. I like it, Nikki and Craig. Yes, you are in my community. All right. Any other questions for anyone? Those are some really good questions. You're gonna send me home to do my homework. Bestseller lists and what was the other question? And categories. The other thing I want you all to consider too, when you start writing your books, pay attention to what the industry standards are, because once you're within the recommended guides, you also want to look at not just bestseller lists, but you want to look at awards. And there are a lot of organizations for independent authors, self-publishing authors, authors generally, that run a range of awards every year. And that information is easy to find. You pay a fee, you enter your book, and you get a little disc that you can put on the cover if you win the award. And that alone gives you so much credibility, because what that does is it not only puts your book in standing to be on a lot of these bestseller books, but it puts your book in good standing to be featured for films, for book clubs that are well known and highly regarded. And if it's a children's book, it puts you in good standing to be considered for school book lists, right? And that's a major plus, right? If you have 100 schools, if Florida State has you on their book list for middle school, how much better does that get, right? So definitely something to look at. Hi, Mrs. Lewis, how are you? Good to see you. This is my third grade teacher, guys, and she is so amazing, so supportive. I'm gonna read for her class every year for Read Across Jamaica Day. So excited. So yeah, that was my topic for tonight, embracing change and why you have to be open to doing things a little differently as an author. And certainly, this is where, one day we'll have to have Mrs. Lewis on to have a chat, because she has explored, the differences between being traditionally published and now exploring self-publishing. And so it's good to even have that conversation with someone who has had that experience, who can say to you, yes, I would do this, or no, I would stick to this particular path. So, Mrs. Lewis, we can have that conversation, and you can tell me if you'd join us one evening to talk about that. I think it would be great. All right, so remember, we meet again this time. We've gone back to our usual 8:30 time, and we meet again next week, Thursday. I'm going to be wrapping up. Remember to chase those goals, chase those dreams, and make a note of that one small step that you took towards inching towards them this week, so that you can share when we meet again next week. Again, I will be relaunching the subscription community, because clearly my technological challenges got in the way. So we've kind of hit pause on that. We'll regroup, make sure the platform is solid and stable and working, so that when everyone goes to sign up, it actually does what it should do. So I'll keep you posted on those dates. In the meantime, check us out at IamLisaMcLean.com. Lots of information on my books and merchandise for Freedom Field, and the blog is there. You'll have access to the Instagram feed, so if there are any recordings that you've missed, any other Thursday Night Lives, then certainly you can tune into those, and I'll keep you posted on any new developments, any new programs that are up and coming. I will keep cool, you're right, it is a very hot summer, but thankfully we've had quite a bit of rain in Jamaica. I am so happy for that. Today was a good day. So keep cool as well. I know you said Canada was feeling pretty hot this year. So I'm going to sign off. It was good to see you guys. Remember to keep chasing those dreams, and I will see you again next week, Thursday, for Chasing Dreams Thursdays. Have an awesome weekend. Take care.